And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, the author of Broadway Butterfly, and I am so excited to welcome tonight internationally best-selling author live from Toronto, Shari Lepena, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new red-hot book, Everyone Here is Lying. Shari, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Everyone Here is Lying is my latest book. It's a thriller about a 9-year-old girl, Avery, who goes missing in a small suburb. She's an unusual girl. She's a little difficult. She has some behavioral challenges. She's been difficult for her parents to handle. And what happens at the opening of the book is she gets sent home from school for misbehaving in choir. And she's not supposed to come home alone. She's supposed to wait for her older brother to take her home. But she comes home and she's in the house when her father, who has just been dumped by his lover, comes home to pull himself together. And when he sees Avery there, they get into an argument and he hits her really hard and knocks her to the floor. And then he leaves, and not that much long afterward, Avery is missing. And then the investigation begins with the police involved. Looking very closely, of course, at the family, particularly at the husband, who has things he needs to hide, but also at the wider neighborhood where it seems that everybody seems to know or thinks they know or would like people to think they know something about what happened to Avery. So it's kind of a twisty story full of lies where everybody's lying, hence the title.
Well, Everyone Here is Lying is skyrocketing straight to the New York Times bestseller list. Congratulations on that. Racking up all of the praise. I cannot wait to get into every delicious detail. But first, I just want to welcome everyone. So we are broadcasting live to 7 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So hey, mystery and thriller loving friends, no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. It is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder. We're going to make them a little less painful for you. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome. We're so happy. Here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured author, and you get to ask them anything. So ask this incredible internationally best-selling author. Thanks for all the hearts on Facebook, you guys. Ask Shari Lepena anything you've ever wanted to know about her craft, her process, her characters, her creativity. What's the secret to writing bestseller after bestseller? I know I have a lot of questions. So just get them going in the comments. I'll get them right over. Human, welcome from YouTube. Thanks for the flowers. Anissa Joy, welcome, saying hello, Sarah and Shari from hot South Carolina. Hi, Anissa. It's hot up here too, up north. Christine, welcome to the conversation, saying howdy from Texas. I enjoy your novels, and this one sounds like another exciting one, Shari. We have Catch a Clue, aka Wendy, saying hi, Sarah and Shari. And Nisa, who's an incredible bookstagrammer and librarian, has a great question. She wants to know, Shari, was there a character in this book that changed a lot while you were writing the book? Give us the scoop.
Yes. I would say Avery changed quite a bit as I was writing her. When I started, I knew that she was she was a 9-year-old, very bright. She had some challenging behaviors, but I wasn't clear what those would be. But as I looked at how she was with her parents and how she was different with her father than she was with her mother, and the way she reacted with other children and other adults, and how she got herself into so much trouble without realizing that she was getting herself into so much trouble, I understood her more and more, and I became much more clear on what her character was. I never really start with a good idea of who my characters are. They always grow as I go along.
Tell us about the process of writing Avery. So a 9-year-old, were you hanging out with some 9-year-olds? Were you just pulling memories? Tell us about that process.
Well, I do have kids of my own, and I spend a lot of time with other people's kids and talking to other parents. So I know what it's like being a parent these days. But I also did a lot of reading about children who were a little different, children who were very challenging, and what the experts had to say about why they were that way, how to handle them, what their future might be. So I did a lot of reading about that to sort of try and get it right. I didn't want her to be unbelievable. So I was happy with how she came out. She's a bright 9-year-old, but she doesn't know as much or understand as much about the world as she thinks she does. So that's kind of a fun age, 9, where they're just starting to be more aware of the grown-up world, but they don't know nearly what they think they do.
Let's talk about the father characters. So you're, open up. This is not a spoiler. It's on the cover of the book. He has just gotten dumped down the road at the motel from his lover. And he's not in a good mind space when he comes home. And then, of course, the first person we look at in cases of domestic abuse or missing children are, of course, the father or the parents. So what was it like crafting him as a character?
Well, he was really interesting to do. I mean, I knew that he was going to be impatient with his daughter. I knew that he was someone who believed in, really hard lines with kids, creating boundaries and expecting certain behaviors. And it wasn't working with this particular child. She was quite oppositional. So he was very frustrated with her. And he had his own background where he had been hit by his own parents. So we understand, why he behaves the why he does. And he's a doctor, so he feels he should be able to manage his daughter better than he does. So I think, part of it was the love affair that he had. And that love affair was a result of the damage to his marriage that was created by the challenges of raising this child, because the two parents didn't agree on how to handle her. So that caused damage to the marriage. And so he was looking for affection elsewhere. And he's just a really troubled man right now. He has one image of himself as a doctor and a good person, but he knows he's not perfect because he's not handling his daughter very well. He knows he's not a good husband because he's been cheating. He knows he's a liar, but he thinks it's important to him that he be seen to be a good man, but he's in a really difficult spot now.
Follow-up question from Anissa. She wants to know, do your characters lead you or do you lead them? Do they talk to you? Great questions, Anissa.
They do talk to me. So what happens is I never plan my characters ahead of time. I don't think about what their characteristics are. I always put them in a situation, a difficult situation always, and I put them with another character or two, and I see what they do and what they say and what it leads to. So I would say that my books are, even though they're when you read them, you think they're very plot driven, but to me, they're very character driven, because it's the characters and what they do that leads to what the plot actions are. So to me, I always see my books as character driven. The characters are the ones who drive the plots. It's their decisions that create the actions in the book. So I would say that characters lead the story, but they surprise me all the time. They grow.
And do they talk to you, Shari? Do you hear their voices?
They don't talk to me. I'm sort of in their heads talking for them. So when I'm in a point of view and I'm writing, I'm just right in there. And when they are talking, I'm sort of putting the words in their mouths, or they're in my head or something. It's odd. I can't explain it, but it's like I'm channeling them. Only that sounds kind of dumb, but I'm right in there thinking along with them and what they're doing and how they're feeling, and I feel what they're feeling, and I experience the story through their eyes, I guess.
Well, what you are saying is clearly resonating, because you're getting so many hearts up. Now, Shari, I'm intrigued by what you said. You said, I never plan my characters ahead of time. I'm just scrolling back, that you put them in a difficult situation always, and let them lead from there. And yet, Glamour.com said Shari Lepena has proved herself a master of twisty thrillers, and this is no exception. You may have figured it out multiple times throughout the story, but the true final twist doesn't come into the last page. So do you plot these twists, or do I take it correctly that you are, when you're channeling them, you're letting them go where they will, and you're just along for the ride?
I'm kind of along for the ride. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how it's going to end. But I do know that I'm developing a number of possibilities as I go along. So I'll be developing streams, like I'll have different characters, and they're all growing, and they're all growing in suspicion, so to speak. Like they could all be guilty in some way. And so as they develop, the story develops. And then when I get to the end, I kind of have to decide how it's going to end. I usually end up with a few people that could have done it, and I have to figure out what the ending is.
So you don't plot.
I know it sounds crazy.
So you pants?
No, I don't plot them.
Okay.
I'm a total pantser, absolutely.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
I've never been able to do it any other way. Yeah.
I love that. Sharon Bishop, welcome to the conversation. Joining us from YouTube saying, hi, Sarah and Shari. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the conversation. Susan joining us from YouTube saying, hello, Shari. What did you enjoy most about writing this book? Great question.
Ooh. Oh, that's a tricky one. I enjoyed a lot of the aspects of it, and I can't give away any spoilers, but I enjoyed the whole treehouse line. I enjoyed Al and Nora and what was happening in Al's mind. I enjoyed the love affair between Nora and William, and her terrible fear of being found out. And I always enjoy a missing kid. It's fun to watch everybody get really unraveled when there's a kid missing, and so many secrets in this book. I just enjoyed how they all just came out. It was a fun one to write, for sure.
Now, Shari, it's interesting you should say that, because this book obviously is centered around a missing kid, and immediately hit the New York Times, where it has firmly stayed for several weeks. Congratulations. Your last book that also did that, just gripped so many readers. The Couple Next Door also centered around a missing kid. So what do you think? Do we all just love missing kid stories? What's going on here?
I don't know. I think it's something that is just so something that's some people can relate to, because I think there's nothing scarier than losing your child. So I think it's just one of those hot points that people get really emotionally involved in. I mean, people get really interested in missing kid cases. They become really invested. People will turn out by the thousands to look for a missing child.
So maybe it's something about tapping into those deep primal fears.
Yeah, I think there's a natural fear of losing a child, and a natural wanting to do something about it, to find the child. It's a pretty basic instinct, I think.
Thank you for that, the insight into two of your incredibly successful books. Let's get over to I saw another really great question here. Christine wants to know, welcome to the conversation, Christine. How do you come up with names for your characters? Some authors find that hard to come up with the names. What's your secret?
Names are very hard. And what I do now is when I have a character, for instance, my next book is set in Vermont. And if I have a character who's a certain age, I know what year they had to have been born in, and I will go and I'll look at popular names for Vermont in that year for girls, and I'll go through and I'll pick a first name that I like, and then I'll go to another page and I'll pick a surname that I like, and then after that, I will Google that name to make sure that person doesn't actually exist already. So that's how I do it now, because in the past I didn't used to do that, and a couple times I've been contacted saying, "Oh, you used my name as a detective or as a character in a book." So now I always Google them to make sure that they don't already exist.
So there were no William Woolers?
Nope.
So you Googled, you checked. Was that your first choice, or were you originally like William Woolen? But
I often change my names, because when I'm writing the first draft, I don't know why, but a lot of writers do this. We'll have a lot of names starting with the same letter, and then I'll have to change them all because you can't have all those names starting with the same letter. And also, when I'm just writing my first draft, I will just put in a placeholder name, and then the name will be outdated, like it's not the right name for someone of that age. And then I go and I make sure that the age is appropriate, the name is appropriate for the age, and all that stuff.
Very cool. We have a mystery user. We're broadcasting to a couple private Facebook groups, so everyone else in the group can see you in there, but outside your name is protected. So one mystery user is saying, these insights into your writing make me think differently about all of your books, Shari. This is so interesting. Isn't this fascinating? You get a sneak peek into the inner workings of Shari Lepena's creative process. I love it. Diane, welcome to the conversation, joining us from YouTube. Great to have you. Oh, Christine wants to know, do you get any input into the book cover or the titles of your books?
Yes, I absolutely do. As far as titles go, I'm always asked to help out to try and think of a title. I tend to be really bad at thinking of titles. So it's sort of a team effort. My whole US team will think about it. My agent will think about it. My UK team will think about it. My Canadian team will think about it. And eventually somebody will come up with the title that we all like, but it takes months. It does take a long time. And I find that it's because a lot of the good thriller titles that I think of are already used somewhere. They've already been taken. So as soon as I think of a great title, I think, whoa, and then I Google that, and that's been taken in the last couple of years. So titles are very hard. And covers, I'm very lucky. I have very good designers in both North America and in Britain. And they have always come up with brilliant titles, but I haven't always covers, and I haven't always loved them. And we've said, go back and take another look, and they always do that. And they always come up with something that we love.
Did you have another title in mind when you were writing Everyone Here Is Lying, Shari, before it got changed to this one?
Yeah, it was called Book Number 7. It's called Book Number 7, Book Number 8, Book Number 9. And that's what they're called until someone comes up with a reasonable title. The only book I ever named was The Couple Next Door. And that was the name that I had from the very beginning. And I thought of that one myself. And ever since then, I haven't been able to think of a title.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. The only one was The Couple Next Door. Wow, I had no idea. Christine's saying she agrees. Missing kids are always so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Diane wants to know, was there a scene or scenes in the book that you didn't write that just practically wrote itself? Were there any scenes or characters that just appeared to you?
Well, I wouldn't want to say they wrote themselves. Like, when I say I don't plan them and I'm in the moment and I write as I go and figure it out, I'm doing that. But it's not like I'm channeling and I'm in a state where it's just writing itself. I mean, I'm writing it, but I can feel quite inspired, and I do have moments when my characters surprise me, where something comes out of them, or there's a twist that happens that I didn't see coming at all. So that's the sort of thing that appears that I'm not expecting. But I've never had a whole scene write itself. I wish. I find with dialogue will often flow out of me very naturally and very easily. And I might have a few pages of that almost writes itself.
Oh, that's fascinating. So when it is almost writing itself, where do you think that's coming from, Shari? Where do you think the genus of creativity is?
Well, I think all creativity comes from the unconscious mind. I think everything. I think ideas, dreams, images, fantasies, all creativity comes from the unconscious mind. So I think you have to be open to it. And it presents in different ways for different people. So some people plan, and that's creativity coming out in a different way. So it's just whatever works for you, The point is a reader can never tell if a book has been planned or not planned. It's just the writers come out with the same product. It's just we come at it from different angles, I suppose.
Melissa joining us from Australia. She says, exciting to see Shari here. Hello to you both. Hello to you, Melissa. Thank you for joining us from the land down under. Follow-up question from Diane. She wants to know, do you have any writing rituals? If so, what are they? Great question, Diane.
I don't have any rituals, but I do have, habits. So I write in the morning. I like to write at my desk. I like to write in absolute, peace. So I don't like anyone around. I don't like music. I like quiet. I like coffee, decaf coffee, and some dark chocolate. And I aim to write 1,500 words a day on average. That's what I aim for. And I do that every day that I write. And I usually write 6 days a week.
Wow. So decaf coffee, so never caffeine, but chocolate in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or even
Okay.
if I'm still writing in the afternoon, I can do chocolate in the afternoon too.
Okay.
But I never
so
do caffeine or I'll be up all night.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love it. So never caffeine, just only the decaf.
Yeah, I do not react well to caffeine. Yeah.
Christine's saying, it's very interesting that you check to make sure you don't have someone's real name. I would never have thought to have done that. That is a very good point, Christine.
I've been caught a couple times. Like I said, I had someone reach out to me and say, twice I had someone say, that's my name. One was an email and one was an email to my publisher. And one was an email to me. So it's very weird when you're looking at your phone, you get an email from a character in your novel. That's what happened to me. And I thought, because my friends say you used my name in your novel. And I looked and it's there. And I thought, oh, she happened to be the evil person in the book. But anyway, I just said, oh, it was just pure coincidence. And now I always Google. So I don't want that to happen to me again.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Yeah, exactly. What would you do if you got an email from William Wooler, from Dr. Wooler?
Well, I would think that was weird because I could Google everything, but it's possible. I mean, it's possible they're out there. I mean, I know people who aren't on the internet very much, and you can Google them and nothing comes up. So I'm sure there's a William Wooler out there. He's just not a big famous person whose name I've taken.
Diane says her husband is from Vermont. Is your next book, which you place in Vermont, in a fictional town or a creatively licensed real town?
It's based on a real small town, but I've changed the name because I don't like to be confined to reality. So if I need to be a church on a certain street and it isn't there in the real town, then it doesn't work. So I use a real town as a basis, and then I change the name, and then I can change it a little bit to however I like. I've done that in upstate New York and also in Vermont.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. We have a mystery user saying, once a book is published, 1, how do you celebrate? 2, does the next plot immediately start forming in your mind? Great questions.
First of all, I always have bubbles. So I have Prosecco or champagne because that's how I celebrate. I love that. That's the easy question. The second one, does the next plot immediately start forming in your mind? No, I wish it did. I mean, to me, I think that's the hardest thing is coming up with the next idea. So I only need one really good idea a year. And I'm at that point now where I'm finishing up book 9, which is out next July. And by September, I have to have my next good idea, and I don't have it yet. So no, it's not like, I mean, I'm very jealous of writers who say, oh, I have so many ideas. I haven't got time to write them all. And there are writers like that. I mean, I think Stephen King's like that. I think James Patterson's like that. There are writers who just have more ideas than they have time to deal with. Yeah. I'm not like that, though.
Me neither.
I don't know, So, yeah, I find that's tricky. I think that it's hard to come up with something really original now, something that really captures your imagination that you haven't seen done before, because there's been so much done. I'm quite jealous in a way of, Agatha Christie, who invented the unreliable narrator. I mean, now you've got to be so clever to do an unreliable narrator well, because it's been done in so many ways so well. So it's hard. It's hard to come up with that good idea, I think.
How do you come up with your good idea? Because it is, and I'm also not one of those writers.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
That's a good question, because I'm trying to come up with one now. I keep my mind open to, the news, things that I see on TV. True crime is often a good source of ideas just to spark something. Um, Other books, but you have to be careful with other books because you don't want to do things that other books are doing. And sometimes if you're reading too much in your area, they can all start to get in your head and you can't do anything different. So yeah, good question. I don't know. I just kind of cast around and then I think the deadline kind of comes up and I think, I'll work with this. And then
Right. You have to get cracking.
yeah, I have to get cracking. Yeah.
Diane wants to know, would you ever write a sequel or a spin-off? Has there ever been a character or characters who didn't fit, but you gave them life in another book? Very good question.
Oh, that's a great question. So the first part, would I ever write a sequel or a spin-off? I never have, but I can understand the appeal of that. I've certainly been asked that a lot. And one book I get asked for a lot is Stranger in the House. People want to know what happens after that one. And that's one I could maybe someday do a spin-off. Also, this latest one, Everyone Here is Lying. People keep asking me, is there going to be a sequel? Is there going to be a sequel? Normally, I basically say no, but never say never. I mean, someday I might. But to answer the second part of your question, has there ever been a character who didn't fit, but I gave them life in another book? No, that has never happened to me. Basically, when I'm writing, characters come alive and then I use them. Or sometimes they don't come alive. They just peter out and then I just get rid of them. So I've never had a character come alive and then I think, but he's not fitting in the book. I'll save him for something else. I've never had that. If someone's not working for me, they're dead to me. That's it. I'm done. But if someone's really alive, then they find a place in the book. They shape their way in. They won't be denied.
Wow, vicious. If someone's not working for me, they're dead to me. Shari just gets out the fictional knife and starts slashing.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's not a lot of energy in that character, if I'm not really invested in finding out what makes them tick and where they're going next, then they're too flat, and I don't want them in my book.
Oh my God, this serves as a warning to all fictional characters. If you better come ready to work in Shari Lepena's world, or get
Be interesting, or you're dead.
Get interesting, or you're done. Oh my God, I love it. Well, clearly it's working. USA Today deeming you the master of manipulation. Lisa Jewell, #1 New York Times bestselling author of most recently, The Family Remains. I'm going to pop this up so we can all read it together, saying the most addictive book I have read in ages.
She said, also doesn't plot. She just wings it too.
I didn't know that. So slick and disquieting and clever, just brilliant. Diane is laughing it dead to me. She loves it. So Shari, what do you think is the secret, 7 books in, to being addictive to someone like Lisa Jewell, to being deemed a master of manipulation from USA Today? Give us your secrets. How do you do it? What do you think your biggest key to success is?
Gosh, I don't know. And I'm at that point where I'm wondering if I can do it again because I have to come up with another book. I think, to put it in a basic sort of way, I think the secret to writing a good thriller is having a really good story question. And I think the secret to me is to have a lot of sub questions, in almost every chapter of my books, there's another question raised, another direction taken, another reveal. So I don't have just the story question that we all know has to be there, but I also have lots of lesser questions. And those questions make the plot turn in all sorts of interesting ways. And it's those little questions, I think, that make the books so, all those little smaller questions lead to the big question, So I think that's maybe it. When I do short chapters and I write in present tense, and they all lead to having quite a fast-paced read.
So, Shari, if it's not a spoiler, can you tell us what the central question that you started with for this book was?
Yeah, what happened to Avery? So I knew. Yeah, so when I knew I was going to have a girl disappear, and I was going to have the dad hit her. I didn't know what happened to her. I didn't know if she would be dead. I didn't know who took her. I didn't know anything about what happened to her, but I knew that she would disappear. So I knew the question would be, what happened to 9-year-old Avery? And that's a great story question, because as we talked about before, people are always intrigued by missing children's stories. So I knew I had a good story question, but then there was a million books about missing children. So it becomes, how can I make this the most particular story? How can I make the details of it so interesting so that it's different from other books? And one thing I always like to think about is how, like we talk about, crime books, they're all about a murder usually. They're someone gets killed, and you think, oh, that's all the same. But when you look at true crime and you get into the stories of the true crimes, they're all so different and so unique and interesting in the details in their own way. Like every murder case has its own really quirky, interesting details. And I think that's what we have to do as writers, is we have to find what's particular and really interesting about this particular story to make it stand out from all the other, murder, disappearance stories out there.
I love that, because I think what's fascinating about true crime is that it lets us into the complex and whole character of humanity, of each of us as a fully formed human, and all of those jealousies and fears and dark sides and good sides. And it is that wholly, and I think that's what people love about true crime, is that it lets you into the entirety and the mess and contradictions of what is a human is. And so applying that same wholehearted to your fictional characters is what is bringing them to life. I love that. Diane saying, Shari, your spirit reminds me of the late Queen of Suspense, Mary Higgins Clark. High praise there. Melissa saying, I do love an original idea in a book, but I understand it must be getting harder. Us readers are pretty smart. That's a really good point, Melissa. The bar keeps getting raised.
This is true. And to go back to a point I made earlier, like crime writers have read a lot and they're very smart and they're very savvy. And so, for instance, if you want to do an unreliable narrator now, you have got to be awfully clever. And it's not so easy to do anymore, because it's gotten to the point where people expect their narrator to be unreliable. So it's definitely getting harder. The bar is being raised all the time. You can't just say, oh, she was drunk the whole time, or she had amnesia, or, you have to get into it in such a way that she's unreliable because she's lying to herself, or there's just, it's so more complex now because the readers are so clever and they've read so much.
Twist, I actually recently started rereading the American Agatha Christie, Mary Roberts Reinhardt, her books at the turn of the century. And it is so interesting to read a book that is that old, because to go back when the twists were simpler and the unreliable narrators weren't as sophisticated or as evolved. And I thought, my God, we really have come a long way. Come a long way, baby.
I think so too. I think things are much more sophisticated now. I think the psychology, the depth with which we look at characters, I think they're much deeper and darker than they used to be. I mean, if you look at the golden age of crime, the characters were very good. But we had a very surface view of those characters. We didn't have a complex understanding of their psychology. I think we go a lot deeper and darker now than they did back then.
Right, because now we're all in therapy. We're all analyzing ourselves. So we're expecting that analysis from our fictional characters as well. A mystery user is saying, my vote is for a spinoff next year, Shari.
Maybe. No, next year's book is written already. It's
the Vermont book.
A different, creepy Vermont book, yeah.
Now, is that book number 8, or do we have a title, Shari?
That is book 8. It just got a title a couple of weeks ago, but I'm not allowed to share it yet. There's going to be a title reveal, but it's a good title.
Sharon wants to know, do your characters keep you up at night?
No, I tend to be pretty tired when I go to bed, so I'm not, I am up at night sometimes now trying to think of a new idea. But when I'm writing, unless I have a particular issue that I'm dealing with, I wouldn't say they keep me up at night. No. Thank God. Being up all night with all these tortured messed up, lying people. Yikes.
Diane wants to know, so do you have your bubbly when your book comes out?
Yeah.
Do you treat yourself to anything else with your book releases?
Just the bubbly. Usually I get flowers sent to me. Often I'm traveling, so that to me is a treat. I usually go to England for my English launch, and yeah, I travel and but the bubbly would be the main thing that I do because I do chocolate every day. It's not that special.
Right. Maybe you should start doing bubbly every day and then see where you go from there.
Oh, then what will I do when my books come out?
I don't know,
New
Shari.
pair of shoes?
Just like the golden age of crime, you got to raise the bar.
I gotta raise the bar.
You got to
Yeah.
keep growing. You know,
I like the way you're thinking. Yeah, maybe I should do bubbly every day.
just like the twists get twistier and the unreliable narrators get more unreliable. You know, you just got to keep elevating.
Yeah.
John Boyne, #1 New York Times bestselling author of All the Broken Pieces, says, I read Everyone is Lying Here in a single day. Lisa Jewell said she read it in 10 hours in one sitting. It sounds like these readers are just racing each other, which you credit to present tense, short chapters, a driving question, and smaller spin-off questions. Anything else? Any other secrets you'd like to share?
Oh, I think that's it. I mean, you have to have really interesting characters,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to be alive and realistic, and they have to be subtle. I like gray areas. I don't like to paint my characters as, all bad or all good. I mean, I've got this William Waller. He's a good man who's pushed by his kid, and he hits her and he hates himself for it. But we don't know. We don't know. He's got light and dark in him. We don't know which one is the most prevalent, right? And I think most people have light and dark in them. And I like to play with those gray areas. No one's all good or bad.
Mm. Well, the book is out now, y'all, and you can order it from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is Murder by the Book. And no matter where you're watching from on Facebook or YouTube, you can click and order that book now, and the good folks at the bookstore will send it right out to you tomorrow. So wherever you are in the world, grab Everyone Here is Lying by the incredible Shari Lepena. And you can immerse yourself and see what has happened to 9-year-old Avery for yourself. Good question here. Wendy wants to know, what's your favorite bookstore in the UK?
In the UK. That's a good one. I like Lingham's a lot, and Lingham's has been very good to me. And they also have the best cake. I also really like Hatchard's. It's just got a lovely vibe to it. Yeah, I'll stick with those for now. But I mean, I have so many favorite bookstores in the UK.
Well, those are some really good recommendations. And speaking of the UK, Jilly McMillan, New York Times bestselling author of The Long Weekend, who was on when that book came out, also chiming in with a rave review, saying Shari Lepena delivers another brilliant, propulsive thriller, and Everyone Here is Lying, sharply observed and at times unexpectedly touching. I liked how she said that it was unexpectedly touching, because I think that's something that a lot of thrillers don't have or will gloss over. And I really liked that she pointed that out, because I think back to what you're saying about fully formed characters, having those quieter moments or those heartfelt moments are some of what I think helps, resonate so much with readers with your books.
Well, sometimes all my characters are unlikable, and most of them. I think in this book, I had some characters who were quite sympathetic. Some of the mothers in the book were quite likable and sympathetic, good characters. So it was nice to have those as a foil against some of these less admirable people.
Well, clearly it's working. Best-selling author Samantha Downing, who also came on just a few weeks ago when her new book came out, said that this is, without a doubt, my new favorite book by Shari Lepena. So high praise there from a twisty, a queen of twists there, Samantha Downing. What a perfect note to end on. Shari Lepena, thank you so much for joining us live from Toronto to share the inside scoop on Everyone Here Is Lying. It has been such a privilege to get an inside look at your relationship to creativity, your practice, your crafting of characters. We so enjoyed chatting with you. Y'all grab the book from our favorite Murder by the Book, and let us know what you think of these characters. Then stay tuned for Shari's next book, tentatively titled Book Number 8, out next year. Wendy saying thank you both. Thank you, Wendy, for joining us. Diane saying thank you. It's such a pleasure to host you guys. Y'all bless you. Have a great week. And I will see you next week for Mystery Monday. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.